there are three components into us. If you have good character, then the other two may come. Your character is of your own making. Your character is of your own choice. As you live life, you are the author of your own life. So the investment must go into character, and the rest may or may not come. There are 6 essential components as we are developing our character, and they all start with the letter C.
May we have questions along with the name and profession so we get a more appropriate response.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Abdul Hamid. I am from Nasik. I am in a government job. I want to ask you a question, Brother Yassir. Today, people in the world with power, like political power and ammunition power and everything, they are pushing Muslim peoples in qital. So what is your comment with pretext to or context to with your 5th C, that is control? What are your comments, please?
It is something that is happening, unfortunately. But by the end of the day, remember this, and I believe we spoke about this some time ago. Sometimes these are issues of character. Equally as important as character is our attitude, especially the way we see life. Because the way you see life is going to determine how you live life. Part of our attitude also is the way we understand Islam and what we think Islam is. Because many times Islam is not necessarily what we think Islam is. For example, I cannot comprehend somebody claiming to be a Sunni going into a mosque because these people are Shias and going there as a suicide bomber and exploding himself there. And when you ask, why do you do this? Say, why do you ask? They're Shias. And the same thing a Shia person coming into a Sunni mosque and they explode themselves and say, but why is this? They're Sunnis, all done in the name of Islam. Not acceptable. Not acceptable. I say, but why are you doing this to each other? Didn't the Prophet ﷺ say, لا ترجعوا بعضي كفارا? Do not apostate after me, do not reject faith after I am gone by smiting the necks of one another. We do this, and we do it in the name of Islam. How can you do this? What happened to your conscience? How can you kill an innocent soul? If that soul is kafir, if that soul is anything, if it's wicked, anything, you just do not take away a life. So at that point, your conscience is dead. Your compassion is gone. You definitely have no control. Your courage is actually foolishness. Because when you do this, it does not mean that you are brave, but rather you are a fool. And we must believe this, that it takes a foolish person to do this. It does not take a brave person to do that. Brothers, this is an important point. It does not take a brave person to do this. It takes a fool to do this. And we must believe it. So the person that you're talking about or what is going on is very sad. It is disgraceful and it's despicable. And it is done in the name of Islam. And we say we reject these notions. We have our differences, but you don't solve them in this way. You don't solve them by going to somebody's masjid and blowing up the masjid. That does not do it. That is silly. You must be sick in your head to be thinking this way, and that is not acceptable. So the point is, to me, this is not just one C. It's not about control of not being able to pull the trigger or not. And to me, it's not about control. It's the whole attitude. It's the whole mentality. The whole vision and perspective that people have about what Islam is. Not acceptable. So to me, it's not really just one C, it's every C that is out there. They are in fault of it. Diminished and defined and total deficiency in all the C's. But sometimes what's bothersome is this. We seem to protest when non-Muslims do things to Muslims. However, when Muslims do things to Muslims, we're very quiet. Why don't we protest that as well? Why don't we show the same anger with our own fellow Muslims when they wrong other Muslims? Why are we only angry when it is the non-Muslims do the same things that Muslims do to each other, yet we're angry when the non-Muslims do it to the Muslims? Why? Why is this? Not acceptable. So the point is, it is not one sea, but rather it is all the seas. And then if we believe this, then we must speak against it. What good is this opinion of mine if I'm not able to share it with my brothers and sisters? You're welcome to disagree with me, but I must make it takes courage to come out and say what I see going on is wrong, and we must speak about it. And we must address it, and we must empower each other by saying this is wrong and it is not acceptable. It cannot be taken place in the name of Islam. It cannot. And we must reject these notions, and we say that we must bring in that peaceful, beautiful face of the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I remember the first time I came here, I told the story of two businessmen. They were having shops next to one another. One of them sells vinegar and the other one sells candy. And the businessman that was selling candy, his business was absolutely terrible. People walk in and out of his shop, they don't buy anything. The people that sold vinegar, his business was booming. People walk in and they walk out with gallons of vinegar. And so 6 months down the road, the person decided to close down the candy shop because his business was really bad. But then he said, I must go and inquire of this person. He sells vinegar and his business is better than my candy business. So he went to him and he said, sir, I don't mean to offend you, but I sell candy. It tastes very sweet and it smells very good. You sell vinegar, it tastes very bitter and it smells very nasty. Yet your business is better than my business. How come? So the man looked at him and he said, sir, you sell candy with a vinegary face. I sell vinegar with a candy face. Okay? It is not the fault of the product. It is not the fault of the candy. It was the fault of the person that was selling the candy. It was not the sweetness of the vinegar, but it was the seller of the vinegar that was sweet, and he was able to sell that product. So we have got this beautiful product called Islam. Are we using a candy face to sell it? We're always angry. We're always offended. We're always provoked. We're always mad about something. We're always fighting. Why would anybody consider this? And somebody else is selling their vinegar, but they're selling it with a very candy face. So we say, let us assess and reassess this beautiful product of Islam, and let us put that face that is most appropriate to it. Allahu A'lam.
Yes, brother.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Muzammil Sheikh and I'm a management student. Sir, as you correctly mentioned all the 6 C's, in management we have been taught all the 6 C's are included. But don't you think that consistency and courtesy too includes? What is your comment about?
Jazakallah khair. The brother is adding another C's, consistency and courtesy. Yes. Part of courtesy, of course, is being considerate. Because being courteous, is being able to extend a helping hand, being these universal values to share with other people. You're being courteous. So similar to courtesy is being considerate. As far as consistency, we said at the very beginning, having a good character is not a goal, it's a process. And because it's a process, one of the requirements of having it to begin with is a consistency and the dedication and the commitment to the idea of character. But remember one thing, brothers and sisters, we're not saying that you only need these 6 C's. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is that these are essential components of having a good character. So there are many other characters. Some of them, they can be subdivisions of this. For example, generosity. Generosity comes under compassion because we are moved by what we feel. So we start spending and what have you. So these are not, the only C's that are out there. But these are just a way of starting the idea, beginning the dialogue of what is needed to have a good character. But thank you for bringing that up. Jazakallah khair.
Yes, sister.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I want to ask one question, that sometimes we find that things we advise to others are not found in us. So can we advise someone, or we should first improve ourselves?
That's a good question. That's a very good question, and thank you for bringing up this question. Many people say, I don't advise people because simply I myself have not done it. So because I am not doing it, I cannot advise people of it, otherwise it's going to make me a hypocrite. And I do not want to be a hypocrite, so let's all just be quiet about it. This approach is not acceptable. One time I read a statement by Ibn Taymiyyah, and I found to be, I was not comfortable with it because I did not understand it at that time. And he said, وَيَنْبَغِي لِشَارِبِيَ الْخَمْرِ أَنْ يَنْصَحَ بَعْضُهُمْ بَعْضًا. He said that it is advisable for those people who are consuming intoxicants to tell each other to stop drinking. Imagine this. They are drinking, and he said, you should still tell each other, even though you are drinking, he said that you should tell each other to stop drinking. And I read that statement and I said, this really does not make sense. You're already drinking, what do you mean you tell each other not to start drinking? And then I meet a brother, a Mexican brother in the US. And I said, so you accepted Islam, what happened? He said, one day, I had a Muslim friend. And he said, and we were all drinking alcohol. Everybody had the bottle of wine and we were drinking it. And then he said he was drinking it and he said, man, I shouldn't really be drinking this. I am a Muslim. Muslims are not supposed to drink alcohol. And he finishes the bottle. So the man looked at him and he said, what are you talking about? You mean there is a religion that actually forbids drinking alcohol? He said, my religion, man. My religion, Islam, we are forbidden to consume alcohol. He said, I need to check this religion out. The Mexican brother goes and studies Islam, becomes a Muslim, and then he comes and he saves this Muslim brother as well. One time I read a statement by Ibn Taymiyyah, and I found to be, I was not comfortable with it because I did not understand it at that time. And he said, وَيَنْبَغِي لِشَارِبِيَ الْخَمْرِ أَنْ يَنْصَحَ بَعْضُهُمْ بَعْضًا. He said that it is advisable for those people who are consuming intoxicants to tell each other to stop drinking. Imagine this. They are drinking, and he said, you should still tell each other, even though you are drinking, he said that you should tell each other to stop drinking. And I read that statement and I said, this really does not make sense. You're already drinking, what do you mean you tell each other not to start drinking? And then I meet a brother, a Mexican brother in the US. And I said, so you accepted Islam, what happened? He said, one day, I had a Muslim friend. And he said, and we were all drinking alcohol. Everybody had the bottle of wine and we were drinking it. And then he said he was drinking it and he said, man, I shouldn't really be drinking this. I am a Muslim. Muslims are not supposed to drink alcohol. And he finishes the bottle. So the man looked at him and he said, what are you talking about? You mean there is a religion that actually forbids drinking alcohol? He said, my religion, man. My religion, Islam, we are forbidden to consume alcohol. He said, I need to check this religion out. The Mexican brother goes and studies Islam, becomes a Muslim, and then he comes and he saves this Muslim brother as well. Okay? Why is this happening? Simply because sometimes I may be engaged in the wrong. And I may be weak. But because I am engaged in it, it does not mean that I should stop from telling people, about how wrong it is. And sometimes I do want to encourage people to do good. But I myself, I am not involved in that good. On my part, that is not good. But collectively speaking, as a community, we must always be addressing these issues. We must always be addressing these issues. I don't pray at night, but it's okay for me to come and tell people. I should do it myself first, but I can come and tell people, please people, do this. This is good. We have to promote the good irrespective of whether we ourselves are doing it or not. And we have to discourage the evil regardless whether we are involved in it or we are not. That part of it is a given. But then on the individual level, we must also pay attention that we do not become hypocritical in the process. That I advise people, oh, you can't be doing this, but yet I am engaged in it. And that is why in the hadith the Prophet ﷺ says, يَأْتِ النَّاسُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ بِحَسَنَاتٍ كَجِبَالِ تِهَامَ. He said on the day of judgment, people are going to come, taking loads of hasanat with them, like the mountains of Tihama, lots of reward. And then he said, فَيَجْعَلُهَا اللَّهُ هَبَاءً مَنْثُورًا. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it and will turn it into scattered ashes. And the companion said, why is this Prophet of Allah? He said, these are the people that were enjoining the good, yet they never did it. And they were forbidding the evil, yet they were engaged in it. The hadith is not telling you to stop. The hadith is not telling you to stop telling people from it, but the hadith is telling you to stop being engaged in the evil as you are forbidding the evil. This is what the hadith is stopping you to do. Stop from being engaged in the evil as you are speaking against it. And start encouraging the good as you yourself, you are embarked on it. So I say, do talk to people, but also make sure that you listen to yourself first. Yeah.
Yes, brother, that would be the last question of the session.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Abdur Rahman. I am a student of engineering. Brother Yassir, I would like to ask a question to you. Today we are seeing in our country, majority people present in our India, mostly, they are watching TV serials too much. They are addicted to these serials like anything. And I think that this is a careful and very appropriate strategy or plan of Yahudis, which has been developed to engage Muslims in these serials. And because of this, we can see that our youngsters, both male and female, they are getting involved in these bad activities. And because of this, we see moral degradation in our society. What alternatives would you suggest to our audience, to us, to stop these evils in our society, please?
Do me a favor, and please do listen to this part carefully. I personally do not agree with conspiracy theory. We Muslims think that everything that is happening to us is because of the Yahud. If an earthquake happens in Turkey, oh my God, the Yahud must have shaken the earth down there. Akhi, it does not happen this way. We cannot go and blame others for our own failures. We are failures because we have failed. We have failed because we are not abiding by our own principles. If somebody comes and takes advantage of this, then they're only pursuing their own self-interest. But we cannot blame somebody else for our own failure. So I disregard with this notion that, this is happening because it's a Yahudi plan or it's a Zionist plan. No, it's just our own fault. Why did you fail in the exam? Because you did not study. It's not that because some Yahudi did not want me to pass the exam. You just did not study, that's why you failed. So to me, to begin with, let us stop this notion of trying to find somebody to blame. Even let's say for the sake of argument, they take 90% of the blame, let us work on our 10% of the blame. Otherwise, we're constantly pointing fingers to somewhere here and somewhere there, and that is not acceptable, brother. That is not acceptable. As far as media is concerned, it is there, it's a reality. And by the way, it is very easy to say this is haram. But it does not take, much effort to declare something haram. That's not a big deal. What a big deal is to say this is haram and I have an alternative. I have an alternative that is as exciting. I have an alternative that is as entertaining. I have an alternative that is as informative. I have an alternative that is as captivating. I have an alternative for you. Islam says don't deal with interest, but all other transactions are halal. Do not consume intoxicants, you can have this juice. So the big deal is not in saying that this is haram. The real big deal and the real challenge is in finding an alternative. You tell your children, watching TV is haram. Okay, fine, haram. But we're kids, what do we do? What do you want us to do? Listening to Yassir Fazaga is not entertaining. You put on that, but that's not, I'm just a child, don't put this man on my face. I want to play, I want to be entertained. So the challenge is, we recognize the evil that is out there. What kind of an alternative are we bringing? And for this we say, this is not a one-man show, but rather this is a collective effort. It's a collective effort where we need all the talents in our community, where we need all the skills of our community to facilitate and to come in as families, concerned parents, concerned mothers, concerned fathers. We say, you know what? When our children are at home and they put on that TV, the things that they see on TV are not very good. We will turn off the TV, but what are the other alternatives? What other alternatives are we providing for them? And to be honest with you, wallah, I don't have an answer. But it's a challenge for all sane, decent, reasonable people all over the world. Television is becoming extremely evil, to put it mildly, to say the least about it. But the question is, what is the alternative that we are suggesting in replacement? And I say that let us promote an Islamic media. Let us promote a media. See, TV is not really haram. TV is a tool. What you do with it determines whether it's haram or not. So TV in itself is nothing. It's like a knife. You can either cut tomatoes with it or you can kill people with it. So we don't say that, the knife is haram. You say what you do with the knife determines whether it's haram or not. It's a beautiful tool. TV is an amazing, amazing, invention of humanity nowadays. But we have misused it. It can be beautiful, and it can be very entertaining and very informative. So we say, let us use that tool and let us facilitate it for the betterment of humanity. Let me give you an example. The Mormon Church in the US, they're part of the Christian faith. And what they do is this. All the movies that come out, they literally take it and they filter it. They absolutely filter it. They take all bad scenes, all profanities, everything out of it, and then they rent it out to their church members. We want you to be entertained, but we don't want your entertainment to be based on filth. We want you entertained, but we don't want you to be insulted in the process. And we say nowadays, let us encourage Islamic media. Let us encourage people who are studying, going towards these studies, so that they can take these beautiful Islamic, Islamic ideas, can reach Islam. In here, we only speak to a number of people. But subhanallah, now that there is TV and there is satellite and the world is becoming such a small village, we can communicate with humanity better if we are able to facilitate this idea of television better, inshallah. With this, I want to say again, Jazakum Allah khair. Thank you very much. هذا والله أعلم وصلى الله على نبينا محمد. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله.
Jazakallah khair, brother Yassir Fazaga, for your great C. That stands for contribution to raising up the levels of the 6 C's of character before our audience present here, as well as the millions who may, inshallah, watch you on television. And inshallah, that would be the milestone in a greater growth of our ummah in future, inshallah. I would request our brothers to kindly appreciate Brother Yassir, Allahu Akbar, for his great contribution to raising up our level. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for making the program possible for us, and we are thankful for our brothers and sisters to be present here. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.